Second down and goal. Herbert, wide open, touchdown. Pretty easy pickup. 7-point game. Picked again. That is 5 turnovers in the last 11 plays.
Oh, this has been a defensive battle. Neither offense has really been able to get much going.
Tight formation, a pitch. Barkley, first down, goodbye. Looks like we are headed for overtime. Trying to tie it or win it. Hurts keeps, throws, batted up and picked off. And the Chargers win the ball game.
Chargers get a crazy win, 5 turnovers. Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are sliding. The regular Tuesday crew is here, and we are delighted to be joined by a very special guest. You don't need me to tell you who he is or where he's from. Rich Eisen is in our studio. How are you?
Rich? Welcome. An honor to be getting up.
Yeah. It's a thrill to have you, and obviously, when you did SportsCenter a few months ago, you and I talked, and the reaction was so great, and so to have you back on ESPN in all the ways that we do is fabulous. And let's start right there. We've been talking all morning long about the Eagles and some of the parallels to what happened 2 years ago when they were great and then it started falling apart. Does it look like this might be a repeat of that to you?
Except for the fact that they have a 2-win team in their house next week and the Washington Commanders twice the rest of the way. I mean, all they have to do is finish a 2-2 and hope Dallas doesn't win out and they win the division. The conference is gone, though. I think last night's loss, that ship sailed on the conference. That said, I don't think the division sailed, and then at some point they're going to play a playoff game in front of the fans who are going to watch them against the Niners or maybe the Bears or it could be the Lions. Can they beat a team like that? If they avoid these mistakes, it's kind of wild that you see both Super Bowl teams from last year play games where they can't be clean for 2 drives in a row or 2, offensive and defensive drives in a row. It's really wild how one thing after another hits. So is 2023 happening all over again? The answer to that is no, because if I'm not mistaken, they got one and done on the road in the playoffs that year.
At Tampa.
I think they're going to have a home game. I don't see them losing this division. They're still too talented for me to say that this thing's gone.
But we measure this team and a lot of these teams off the expectations, and that's the problem with the Eagles. I think you're right. What you're saying is they are capable of getting it done, but we're looking at them and asking, can they win a Super Bowl? And I haven't seen anything this entire season that tells me that their offense is up to the task. Like the defense, obviously, is incredible, but that offense.
They play up, though. They beat the best teams in the NFL, man. And for whatever, like what we all bash them and they don't do, but they listen.
Right,
this
but
team
4 weeks in a row.
I understand, but they limit their turnovers. Again, they've gone to 2 turnovers a week. When they don't have turnovers, they win. When they do, they lose. Like it's a simple formula. They saw it early last year. They made a change. If they see this, what just happened last night, they go, hey, maybe we turn the risk profile down a touch.
And I think Domonique said it earlier. For Nick Sirianni now, you've watched your team over the last several weeks. Right. You're now responsible and taxed with, all right, my offense is this, my defense is that. How can we win football games now moving forward? That's going to be the key thing. We're talking about turning the football over, running, doing different things like that. Can you lean on your defense and get a play or two from the special teams throughout the course of a game to beat these good football teams when it matters most?
Well, Pointer, you look at Jalen Hurts. He put the ball in A.J. Brown's hands 3 times.
Amen.
One of them went off his hands into the hands of the defense. The first one on the first play of the game, he could have been up 7-0. On the last drive of the 4th quarter, they could have had a 6-point lead right there. I mean,
somebody's listening. Somebody's listening, folks. That's what I'm talking about, Rich.
I have a set of eyes, you know what I mean? And I think it's just very difficult for all of us to wrap our arms around the fact that last year's great teams might either all miss the playoffs or not even get close to the Super Bowl this year. You take a look at the Chiefs with 15 wins and the Lions with 15 wins. They're both on the outside looking in. The Vikings with 14 wins aren't making it. The Commanders with 12 wins aren't making it. So it's a completely different. We always know that the playoff field from one year to the next is different, but not to this extent. So I think we're all having trouble wrapping our arms around it. And if I'm the Eagles, I would essentially say this to the committee. I would say, listen, our loss to the Rams should count for something. Wait a minute. That's it.
Different sport.
My bad. I'm getting all confused.
Since you bring yourself to that,
Yes, sir.
why don't we go there for a minute?
Why not?
Because that's been a huge topic of conversation. Rich,
Sure.
of course, a proud Michigan man, which we are inundated by here seemingly on a daily basis. So I have to imagine that you have some sort of emotions about the things that have been happening with Notre Dame and the way
Sure.
they have reacted to it. What is your take on that?
I think Notre Dame deserved to be in, and it's up to James Madison and Tulane to go and ball out. It's just that simple, because the rest of this college football loving world thinks Notre Dame is one of the 12 best.
Right.
You could make the case that BYU is as well. You can make a case for Vanderbilt. I'm sure Texas is sitting there saying, what about our 3 losses? You know, Alabama, folks are saying, well, they just got beaten. Well, maybe Miami would have been if Miami actually made it to their conference championship game. The system is totally screwed up. We're already professionalizing this thing. We should just go ahead and, I don't know, if Nick Saban wants to do it, I don't know who's going to be the one to do it, but to be a commissioner of this thing, let's figure out who's in the college football playoff tier and go and professionalize this thing.
Let me ask the group of football players here, because what's happening is the group of 5 teams, which there really is only supposed to be one. Technically, in this case, Tulane is not in as a group of 5 team. They're in as one of the 4 highest rated conference champions. That comes down to Duke having won the ACC with 5 losses. So that's sort of a quirk in the situation. But to your point, a situation shouldn't have a quirk that screws it up that badly.
Well, you should also, pardon me, not have a system where, you know, folks who are on TV or who are being listened to have to say things like group of 5. What fans have no idea what the hell a group of 5 is, or any of that stuff. Like when it's college basketball, RPI and all that stuff, my eyes glaze over, but at least there's 68 teams that make it. Here it's just, again, I have a set of eyes. I watched a lot of college football this year, and with all due respect, I don't think anybody's out there saying, I need to see Ole Miss and Tulane play again to see if Tulane can get closer than 35 points.
Perfect.
You know, I mean,
which sets up the point exactly, which is this, that in college basketball, part of the texture, part of the beauty of that tournament is that you do get these other conferences, and you get to see these schools, and you get the 2 versus the 15, and every once in a while you get an upset. And it doesn't matter if there are some blowouts, because there's 5 games on at the same time anyway, and it's all kind of proofed for that. In this case, football is not that. These are 12 teams. And while we want to have something for everyone else to fight for, do you guys feel it should just be the best 12, whoever they are, regardless of affiliation?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, Rich made a point. You're telling me that Notre Dame doesn't deserve to be in this thing, and Tulane and JMU?
James Madison.
I mean, like, and I get it. I get the rules. It was the process. But I'm not beholden to any university. I have a problem when the 12 best aren't playing for it, and that's the reality. It's not going to happen.
For the record, though, just to make sure everyone's clear, they don't pick the 68 best teams in basketball either, right? They make provisions for everyone to get a chance, and I think that's what they were going for.
But I mean, if
here.
it's about finding a national champion, the 12th ranked team is not likely to be a national champion. We've built this structure on type of a faulty foundation, and all these competing parties like bowls and conferences and teams and Notre Dame, they're all pulling in different directions, and this Frankenstein's monster of college football is going to give us a sloppy result. So, like, being upset about this is being upset about the whole foundation of the process, and not just one-off blaming Tulane or getting upset with JMU.
I don't think you're blaming them, but I think this year would be the year that you would say
I guess
12th best team could win.
For me, though, it's possible, but for me, though, it just feels like phony to be like, Tulane, you don't belong in here, or JMU don't belong here, when we have to accept that we allowed all of this stuff to happen. We've watched this happen. In college basketball, it's a lot different, where the NCAA has more power and is more centralized, and the game is different. But now they're just like, everyone's competing.
And I think for me, I've listened to all the experts talk about this, and we all I think everybody wants the 12 best teams in it. But when you say to somebody, well, all right, how do we get there? There's still mass confusion on what a system looks like to figure out the 12 best teams, because it's not just objectively looking at it and say, all right, we're going to look at their record, their win. How do you objectively look and say, all right, these are the 12 best teams, and whoever 13, 14, and 15 is, they're going to feel left out. There's always going to be that. So to your point, Nick, like, the system is flawed, and that's the most important part.
Have existed. Everyone had to basically get their little piece of the fiefdom, and now this is what you're looking at. And I think, you know, if you ask the College Football Playoff Committee, they're hoping James Madison is the UMBC of this tournament. I just don't think that in football that sort of thing happens. James Madison, though, did send Curt Cignetti on to Indiana, and I can't believe I'm saying these words. as a longtime Big Ten person, but it's the truth. I think we may find out nobody's as good as Indiana at the end of the day, based on what we've just seen.
So we'll go into all of that. I want to tell everybody why Rich is here.
Because I'm getting up.
We're delighted to see you.
Thank you.
And all of that. But he's also here because tomorrow night we're going to have a very special evening in which we honor our dear friend Stuart Scott.
Yes.
And we're going to give the Stuart Scott Award, the first ever such award, to Randy Moss tomorrow night, which will be very special. And all of this is to coincide with the 30 for 30 that will be airing tomorrow night for the first time, which is called Boo-Yah, a portrait of Stuart Scott's life. And people ask me to this day, Stu, he's been gone a long time. To this day, people ask me about him all the time. Rich sat next to him. For those of you who don't remember what SportsCenter was once upon a time, I mean, you sat next to him basically every night for years.
I did.
And so what are your, as we prepare all of us to watch this film tomorrow night, I know it's emotional for me. I can't imagine how much it is for you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I haven't been able to bring myself to watch it yet, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then another reason why, though, is, I met my wife, Susie, in the newsroom. You know her.
I do.
From back in the day. And so I think we're waiting for school to be out so the kids can be, free of all their, work. And we're going to just sit down because they really don't know a lot about Stuart because they're 17, 14, and 12. And that's why I think a documentary like this is crucial, is that a younger generation can be introduced to a guy who helped, raise an entire generation of people. The number of times I'm sitting there at a school event and somebody will come up to me and say, "You put me with Stuart on a school bus," or "You put me to sleep, in college." It really means a lot. And just seeing this photograph of him up on the screen right there makes me think of two things. One, just sitting next to him night after night after night and just having a blast. And two is, I'm wondering if I was airbrushed out of that photograph. Because that looks like a picture that I took with Stu. Or I was not. I was just been told I was not. But that's something that Stuart would have laughed at, had I been airbrushed out of a photograph. It was just him. Who's this other guy next to me? But
I hope everyone understands that Stuart Scott changed the way sports are talked about in America. There are very few people of whom this can be said, but there is sports conversation in the United States before Stuart, and there is sports conversation in this country after Stuart. And he, with a combination of his own electric personality and enormous courage, because you lived it much more than I did, but I was around. Not everyone embraced it immediately. It was not always easy for him, but he had the absolute confidence in himself to say, "I'm just going to be me on TV," at a time when there weren't a lot of people being that way on TV. And he really changed so many things. So this is not just, I think, the story of a man and a father and a friend and a colleague, but this is a story of a person who really made a substantial difference in the way sports are talked about, and that goes beyond just sports. He made a difference in the culture in the way very few people who do what we do for a living ever could.
Well, and he didn't really know that at the time either, because he was, as you point out, just being himself. And he would bristle at some of the pushback he would hear about. I also told him, though, that sort of reaction that he was getting did lead to him being spoofed on Saturday Night Live, which he came into work the next day after Tim Meadows and Ray Romano did that sweet Sassy Molassie sketch. He acted like he was not happy about it. I'm like,
love it.
Come on, man.
You made it, baby.
I would be happy if Ray Romano was making fun of me with the sweet Sassy Molassie. But a perfect example is, I think, I don't know if this made the documentary, but I told the story, is Stuart obviously would pepper a lot of his highlights with catchphrases from hip hop. And that reference would go over a lot of people's heads, and it would get pushback he would receive for him being accused of being exclusionary. And he always thought he was being inclusionary. And he was. At one highlight I would do, and back in the 90s, kids, there was a show called Seinfeld. And so I did a Seinfeld reference. And we go to break. And in the commercial break, he goes, "What was that?" I'm like, I just did a Seinfeld reference. He goes, "From Seinfeld?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, this is just brothers don't watch Seinfeld. That's what he said. But the reference is how come you are cool to do that reference and it's viewed as inclusionary when you're being exclusionary to me? Right. And that's the way it would always go. And the documentary is coming up tomorrow night, and I hope everybody checks it out because it's important for Stuart to be front and center.